Loram ipsum dolositamate laci diam vilet, in asulum facete impariete cum nonomi castia celescia ia cum zul dileante expiatantis at. Welcome to Dead Dude of the Day, presented by Kingdom Lyceum, and I'm Jeff Peterson. If you're wondering what in the world you just heard, it'll mean a little bit more later when we get further along in our discussion of the Dead Dude of the Day, Dante Alighieri. The span of Dante's life covered from the year 1265 to 1321. Let's take a look at some contemporary events. 1272 to 1273, the Ninth Crusade takes place and is the last official crusade to actually go to the Holy Land. In 1274, Thomas Aquinas publishes his greatest work, Summa Theologica. Marco Polo publishes his tales about his overland journey to the Far East in 1298. 1299, the Ottoman Empire is founded by Osman I. In 1307, the Babylonian captivity of the papacy begins when the Pope is moved to Avignon, France. And then shortly after Dante's death in 1325, the great city of Tenochtitlan is founded in modern-day Mexico. Revolutionary writer and philosopher Dante Alighieri was born to upper-middle-class parents in the Republic of Florence in modern-day Italy around the year 1265. Dante, as he's now known in history, liked to believe that he could trace his family's ancestry all the way back to the earliest Roman inhabitants of the city of Florence. Which, side note, if you're known in history by just one name, first or last, you did pretty well. You're doing something right. You're probably pretty influential. Dante was truly a man of his city. And you know the old saying, you can take the boy out of Florence, but you can't take Florence out of the boy. Well, that's going to ring true here in Dante's life, as you'll see. The Republic of Florence had a tumultuous history, as this was a time of competition between kings and popes in an epic battle of, no, I'm the boss of you. No, I'm the boss of you. Due to this cultural phenomenon, Dante and his fellow citizens were no stranger to rival factions and the occasional citywide brawl, massacre, uprising, or what have you. Dante and his family were part of the Florentine Guelph faction. The Guelphs supported the Italian Pope, because sometimes there was a French one too, as the ultimate authority over autonomous Italian Republic. The rival Florentine faction was called the Ghibellines. The Ghibellines were against the papacy and they were more in favor of an empire. Consequently, the Holy Roman Emperors often supported the Ghibellines in hopes of obtaining influence in the Italian peninsula. In 1289, both sides decided to squad up and go at it. In this battle, Dante fought with the Guelphs, who achieved a great victory over the Ghibellines and forced their influence from the city. This victory sparked like a Guelph golden age in the Florentine Republic. During this time, Dante served as a civil official, a diplomat, and an influential member of the Apothecaries Guild in the city. In his personal life, Dante married Gemma de Donati, to whom he was betrothed from an early age. However, the true love of his life was Beatrice Portinari, a girl he had known since childhood. She would make quite a few appearances in his writing later on. Throughout his life, Dante excelled in writing and philosophy, and he was heavily influenced by early Roman greats Cicero and Virgil, among others. Dante had written several influential works during his time in Florence. However, all of this was about to change. That's what they call foreshadowing in the storytelling business. So you'll remember that the Guelphs were in charge of the city of Florence. However, not long after their victory over the Ghibellines, they divided into two factions, the Blacks and the Whites. Dante was allied with members of the White Guelphs who wanted less Roman and papal control over the city of Florence, whereas the Black Guelphs supported the Pope as the supreme authority over everything. This was a minor difference that soon caused a major conflict. So the Pope at this time was Boniface VIII, and Boniface was perhaps the most politically ambitious Pope in world history. Sure, he performed Mass on Sundays, but European domination is what got him out of bed every morning. He would do whatever was needed in order to gain influence and territory for the Roman Church, of which he was in control. So when it came to Florence, Boniface supported a French prince to ally himself with the Black Guelphs in Florence in order to take over the city in 1301. Dante, in fact, was in Rome during this whole insurrection, and he was informed that he and several other white Guelphs were no longer welcome in Florence. In fact, they would risk execution if they returned to their home city. This devastated Dante, as he saw himself as a son of the Florentine Republic. However, it also served as the catalyst for his greatest literary work, the Divine Comedy. So we're going to examine the Divine Comedy's uniqueness and its literary structure. First, let's check out why it's unique. And now we get back to the mumbo jumbo you heard at the beginning of the video. So I was reading copy that was written in Latin, and it probably didn't make that much sense to you, because it definitely didn't make sense to me. Dante broke away from the long-held tradition of publishing important works in the Latin language. Instead, Dante wrote and published his greatest work, the Divine Comedy, in the common language of the everyday Italian. So the technical term for this common language is vernacular, and it's a game changer in literature for Western history. Secondly, the Divine Comedy was revolutionary in its structure and its story. This book is the story of a man who is assumed to be Dante himself and his journey through life and the afterlife. His journey is divided into three parts: Inferno, or hell, Purgatorio, or purgatory, and Paradiso, which is heaven. Ancient Roman philosopher and Dante's personal hero, Virgil, guides the traveler through his journey in Inferno and Purgatorio. Then he is reluctantly forced to pass off the traveler to the guide to Paradiso, Beatrice. There it is. It all comes full circle. Here's Beatrice, the guide to paradise. Of course, she's so lovely. Why wouldn't she be? For real though, if you're Dante's wife, you gotta have a problem with this Beatrice character showing up in all of his works as like the perfect lady, and he never wrote about Gemma once. So each book is set up like a really long poem and is divided into 33 cantos, which are basically like really long stanzas. 3 books with 33 cantos each and 1 canto at the end brings us to a nice round 100 cantos in the Divine Comedy. It truly is an epic piece of literature. Dante's work was well received amongst academics and philosophers almost immediately. It also was enjoyed by Pope Boniface VIII's enemies, as he was depicted pretty poorly in the book by Dante. In fact, during the book, while the traveler is going through Inferno, he runs into Pope Boniface VIII in hell. The Divine Comedy was published in the early 1300s, shortly before his death, exiled from the city that he loved. His legacy is complicated, especially from a biblical perspective. Dante was right to call out the corruption of the papacy, as it was a very corrupt office and the Roman Church was a pretty corrupt institution at the time. And the Divine Comedy has several elements of scriptural truth, like the fall of man and his need for redemption. However, the Catholic concepts of purgatory and penance are presented as modes for redemption. Also, the literary elements and devices prove to be doctrinally problematic in several areas. However, regardless of his doctrinal stances, Dante's publishing of the Divine Comedy in the vernacular of the day paved the way for the eventual translation of Scripture from Latin into other common languages. And that's what makes Dante Alighieri our dead dude of the day. Thanks for watching. Hey, if you got value from that video, if you enjoyed it, if you learned something new, please consider liking it, subscribing to our channel, hit the notification bell so that you don't miss any of our new videos and that you are always learning.